Shadows twist where whispers grow. The edge of light begins to flow. A world unseen through fractured glass, where futures meet the echoes past. Step closer now, the veil is thin. A riddle starts where dreams begin. The experimental medium calls your name. Nothing here will be the same.
You, our listener, have brought us some truly fascinating material this time. The A Course in Light series of books.
Yeah, definitely not light reading in the usual sense.
No, not at all. These explore some really profound areas. Spiritual growth, how energy might be used for healing, and the very nature of consciousness itself.
Big topics.
So our mission today is to unpack these pretty extensive texts. We want to pull out the most compelling ideas, those aha moments that can give us and you a fresh perspective.
Right, looking for those key insights.
We'll be looking at everything from, like, how meditation might connect us to different states of being, to concepts of inner energy and personal change. Okay, let's unpack this. With such a rich collection of ideas, where do we even start?
That's always the challenge, isn't it?
Maybe we should start with how these texts describe that fundamental connection, the one between light and our own consciousness.
That sounds like a great place to start. What immediately stands out, I think, is this recurring idea of light, not just as, something we see.
But as a core element of consciousness itself, and actually a really powerful tool for personal growth.
Okay.
The texts talk about a sort of central point of consciousness for the planet, almost like a universal internet, if you will.
Interesting analogy.
Yeah, and through focused intention, our awareness might be directed potentially to different times or even different states of being.
Wow.
It suggests our consciousness isn't just stuck in our physical bodies or, bound by our usual sense of time.
That's a really mind-bending thought, isn't it? Like having an internal remote control for your awareness.
Kinda, yeah. And it's not just about our own individual journey either.
Right.
There's this concept of our light connecting with others, especially those who are maybe newer to exploring these kinds of ideas.
So like a shared awakening, a way we can support each other.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting for me. The texts describe light as something active, something that can actually lift our lower, more negative thought patterns.
And help them dissolve.
Precisely. Help them dissolve.
Okay.
And this aligns with a lot of ancient wisdom, doesn't it? Linking light to things like purity, understanding, overcoming ignorance.
Makes sense.
Chris, in light introduces this idea of Christ consciousness, but importantly, not necessarily in a purely religious sense.
Okay. How so?
Think of it more as a universal force, maybe, something that brings illumination and makes all potential possible, like the ultimate power source for everything.
An underlying energy.
Yeah.
And then the texts dive into what our soul actually is. How do they frame that?
Well, it's described as a dimension of light, finally free from all those everyday physical cravings and desires.
Right.
And its main goal, to express its inner divinity and, well, gain a deeper understanding of these different levels of existence, the physical world we know, but also other energetic and mental realms.
So the soul's on a learning adventure, basically.
You could say that, yes.
Okay.
And building on that, they talk about the angelic realm.
This is portrayed as a space inhabited by beings who've achieved a really high level of spiritual evolution. Masters, they call them, who are no longer bound by the cycle of cause and effect we call karma.
Free from karma.
Yeah. The texts mention the Great White Brotherhood residing there, guided by the Prince of Peace, often identified as Christ Jesus and Melchizedek. It introduces this idea of a kind of spiritual hierarchy.
Okay, so it's like a whole interconnected spiritual world. But what about us down here? How do we as individuals engage with this light and these higher states?
Good question. The texts really emphasize that our own thoughts play a huge role.
In how light is focused and directed, right? It's not just passive.
Precisely. Our thoughts are like lenses, shaping and amplifying this inherent light within us. The series even associates different colors with specific qualities of light. For example, radiant blue is connected to wisdom, peace, and truth. Think of radiant blue as like the energetic key to unlocking your own inner knowing, a direct line to clarity when you feel lost.
So these color energies,
Yeah.
they're tools we can use.
Exactly. Tools for meditation, setting intentions. This idea pops up quite a bit.
And it gets even more intriguing with the idea of these formless angelic beings.
Yeah.
They have a sword of light.
Yeah, to help us tell the difference between what's true and, well, what's maybe foolishness or illusion.
Okay.
It paints a picture of an ongoing inner and maybe even outer struggle against negativity in our daily lives. And light is presented as our main form of protection.
So it's not just abstract spiritual ideas. It feels like there are real energetic forces at play here.
That's a really important point to grasp, I think. The texts also remind us that our actions, especially negative ones like holding on to resentment or seeking revenge, they have consequences within this whole energetic system.
Karma, absolutely.
And there's this really concise and powerful thought offered. Man is but a humble expression of a creative consciousness, perfect in its inner essence, yet imperfect in its human consciousness.
That's beautiful. It acknowledges both our potential and our struggles.
Exactly. We have this amazing inner potential, even though we're also navigating the challenges of being human.
So it's about recognizing that inherent goodness within us and consciously choosing to align with it.
Yes.
And that's where the power of our conscious thoughts comes in, right? They can essentially overshadow illusion, help us see through the distractions and anxieties.
Exactly. And at the core of this alignment is love.
Okay. How is love described?
The texts describe love not just as a feeling that comes and goes, but as a fundamental state of being fully present in the moment, expressing ourselves freely, and crucially, letting go of that fear. The fear of not being loved or of losing ourselves.
This sounds like a very expansive, unconditional kind of love they're talking about.
It is. Very different from how we often experience it with attachments and expectations.
Yeah, more foundational. But then the texts also address the opposite, the impact of focusing on negative emotions, ill will.
Right. They suggest this actually contributes to a heavier, denser energy on the planet. It's a reminder that we're all connected, our inner state affects the whole.
It really is. And the way to counteract this, according to these teachings,
is by connecting with what they call the divine will expressed through this I am consciousness.
the I am.
Yes. The purpose of our lives then becomes about expressing and glorifying this inner divinity.
Which takes conscious effort, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. A conscious effort to resolve those inner conflicts, the disconnects between our more ego-driven side and our deeper spiritual nature.
Okay, so it's an ongoing process of refining ourselves, moving towards higher and, well, brighter states of being.
That's a good way to put it.
But the texts also point out potential obstacles, right? Like having a fixed mindset.
Yes, that comes up. How a fixed mindset can create rigidity, not just in our thinking, but even potentially in our physical bodies.
Wow.
It really highlights how important it is to be flexible and open to these spiritual concepts. Rigidity in thought can manifest physically.
That's quite direct.
It is. The series introduces this idea of a network of light. Imagine it as a web of interconnected spirits and focused intentions, all working together to bring positive energy to Earth.
A collective effort.
And our effectiveness within this network, they suggest, is directly linked to how centered and grounded we are in our own inner spirit.
That makes a lot of sense. If you're feeling scattered, your energy won't be as focused or effective, right?
Exactly. And there are more of these colored rays mentioned, like the orange ray.
What's that associated with?
Expanding our awareness and creating a sense of unity among people. It's almost like a spiritual toolkit with different energies for different purposes.
A whole spectrum of tools.
Precisely. The texts suggest that the heaviness we sometimes feel in our bodies and the closed-mindedness we might encounter, it's often due to misdirected human thought. And to help with this during our inner work, like meditation, they advise shifting our perspective to that of the oversoul.
The oversoul.
Yeah, a more objective, higher aspect of ourselves, so we can observe our emotions without getting completely swept away by them.
Ah, that's an interesting distinction. Being aware of emotions without letting them control us.
Exactly. And it's not just us doing this work on our own, apparently. The texts mention cosmic beings who play a role in reinforcing this vibration of unity and connection to a higher consciousness on the planet. It gives a sense of a larger cosmic plan unfolding.
So there's help available, in a sense.
Indeed. And as we become more attuned to these higher energies, the texts suggest we might experience something like an increased intolerance for violence and negativity.
Not judgment, but sensitivity.
More like our energetic system becoming
Oh.
more refined and sensitive, yeah. This also ties into the idea of actively joining this network of light to consciously release what they call the perfection ray into the earth dimension.
It sounds like very active participation is being described here, not just passive enlightenment.
Absolutely. And there's a rather serious look at, well, nations or societies stuck in old ways of thinking.
Suggesting challenges are part of transformation.
Kind of.
Yeah.
That the global challenges we see might be a necessary part of a larger transformation, like a grand scale of spiritual evolution happening.
Okay.
And within this global shift, the texts highlight the importance of pace setters.
Pace setters.
Individuals who are actively working to master their own thoughts, their environment, their emotions.
People doing the inner work.
Exactly. And their efforts, while sometimes challenging, especially in bringing these higher energies down into the Earth's atmosphere or aura, they have a really significant impact. Every personal effort contributes to this collective upliftment.
That's encouraging. And it's not all about these big cosmic forces, is it? There's a personal element, too.
Very much so. Like the idea of communicating with spiritual teachers, perhaps within this white brotherhood, through inner silence.
Emphasizing intuition and inner listening.
Right. And also the idea that we can create new thoughts and intentions on these higher levels, with the aim of bringing them into our own lives, how we express ourselves here on Earth.
So we're like co-creators with these higher energies.
That's a beautiful way to put it, yes. The texts also acknowledge that different levels of reality, different frequencies of consciousness exist alongside each other, often veiled or hidden from our everyday understanding.
Okay.
And that teachers or guides within this network of light are there to assist us on our journey. We're not entirely alone in this.
That's comforting. And there's a call for balance as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Between spiritual intentions and, well, living in the material world.
Yes, finding harmony, integrating the spiritual and the practical. The texts stress that even our individual thoughts and desires, especially when directed towards the greater good, have effects that go far beyond what we might immediately see or realize.
That's a powerful reminder of how interconnected everything is, isn't it?
It really is. The series encourages us to consciously focus our thoughts on peace, healing, unity for the earth.
A practice.
A very intentional practice. And to connect with our inner guides and teachers in this, what they call the inner temple of light, asking for guidance and wisdom.
And at the heart of it all, for both ourselves and the planet, inner peace.
Absolutely paramount. The texts state quite clearly, you can't really have peace in the world without first finding it within yourself.
Makes sense.
So these challenges, these fears and doubts we encounter on this path, they're essentially opportunities to overcome obstacles and deepen that inner peace.
Okay. And the wisdom ray, that blue light we talked about, how does that fit in here?
It's presented as a tool we can use by directing it, maybe in meditation, through this network around the Earth's mental sphere.
Helping project peace.
Exactly. Projecting this vision of peace from a place of inner calm. And visualizing a radiant blue light within our own consciousness is suggested as a way to release those deep-seated fears and doubts.
It's all about harnessing these energies through focused intention, it seems.
Very much so. The text even suggests we can experience ourselves as our mind moving through this intricate web of energy.
Wow.
And then there's the radiant pink ray.
Pink? What's that for?
It comes from divine love, and it's directed specifically towards the Earth's collective mental state, like a direct infusion of love into our shared consciousness.
An energy of pure love.
And this divine love, as the texts explain, has a profound spiritual impact on the Earth's consciousness. It's described as this flowing force that connects our spirit and soul in a perfect state of service and harmony.
But difficult to grasp fully.
Well, the series acknowledges that our human understanding of love is just a small glimpse of this much grander divine love.
But even that glimpse is important, right? Part of a larger movement.
It seems so. A wave of love rising to bring balance, fairness, order to Earth. And the key, the text suggests, is to cultivate that love from our own inner being outward. Experiencing truth through our own intuition, our inner knowing, rather than just looking for external approval.
Trusting yourself.
Precisely. And then there's the amethyst ray.
Amethyst, what does that do?
Described as an energy that can speed up hidden conflicts, not to cause trouble, but to help bring about karmic balance and a cleansing of the earth. It's a powerful transformative energy.
So it brings things to the surface.
Exactly. And those who are working with light workers are seen as actively channeling these vibrations, these different rays, through meditation, directing them into the earth and our collective mental consciousness.
It sounds like a very active role for those drawn to this kind of work. What's the ultimate purpose?
To direct this light towards areas of conflict, holding the intention, the thought of honesty and truth, leading to peaceful resolutions.
Holding that vision.
Yes, it brings to mind this powerful image they use of the peaceful dove descending, symbolizing a higher level of consciousness emerging. It's about seeing the planet move towards its own renewal.
A hopeful vision.
And this process continues with the activation of the radiant silver ray, often combined with gold and mint green, specifically for healing and bringing about new awareness.
Silver, gold, and mint green together.
Yeah, signifying a shift into a new level of understanding, one where our actions come more from trust and a natural intuition guided by our soul's wisdom.
It's about letting go of that fear. The fear that our choices will somehow harm us or undermine us.
Exactly. And trusting that inner guidance. Wisdom, the texts suggest, comes from stepping into the unknown and trusting our intuitive senses. It's a real act of faith being encouraged here.
Sounds like it.
And within this context, the Order of Melchizedek is described as issuing a call, a decree almost, for the inner Christ consciousness to be magnified, both within each of us and collectively.
A collective amplification.
Right. However, the texts also acknowledge that it can be difficult to discern things clearly sometimes. Discernment is tricky, and they emphasize the importance of staying true to ourselves, to our own creative impulses and urges.
Which leads to this interesting point about letting go of the guilt of not being perfect.
Ah, yes. The series actually suggests that perfection, as we often think of it in our everyday lives, is somewhat of an illusion.
An illusion. How so?
Life on Earth is seen more as a journey of learning to see our own inherent perfection, the divinity within, rather than trying to achieve some impossible external ideal.
That's a perspective shift.
It is. Opportunities that help us fulfill our intentions, our soul's purpose, will appear along this path. The key is to stop struggling so much, to have faith in the journey itself.
Trust the process.
Exactly. It's about raising all aspects of ourselves, mind, body, emotions, into this state of light consciousness and embodying what they describe as Christ's way.
So it's about allowing our higher wisdom, our higher self, to guide us, using our physical selves as an instrument for this light to express itself.
Precisely. This process of waking up to our true potential is described as moving through stages, periods of awareness, and maybe unawareness.
Back and forth sometimes.
Yeah. And the crucial thing is that we shouldn't interfere with our own unique creative expression and upliftment, or anyone else's for that matter.
Respecting the individual path.
And the main guiding principle is always to focus on what's best for everyone, the highest good, through our collective thoughts.
Collective intention again.
Yes. The texts even use symbols, like the cross, representing letting go of the past, crossing it out, allowing us to live in freedom now.
Okay.
And the rose is presented as a symbol of love and healing that comes directly from this Christ consciousness.
Powerful symbols. And then there are these core ideas that seem to tie everything together.
Like we are all one. That's fundamental.
Right. That principle of interconnectedness underlies so much of these teachings.
It does. And when we consider leadership, for instance, the texts encourage us to see true strength not in dominance, but in guidance that aims to resolve and heal.
Healing leadership, not just power.
Exactly. The vision is one of global healing and restoration, where humanity supports itself through shared creativity, through the flow of spirit and light.
Right.
There's even a call, metaphorically perhaps, for those dedicated to truth and peace, warriors of light, to come together, and a vision of the earth rebuilding, flowing in harmony.
With technology finding its place too.
Yeah, technology finding its balanced place in human progress. It's quite holistic.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
The core idea seems to be that our consciousness itself needs to change. How we see both the inner world and the outer material world.
Precisely. The Christ light is presented as moving from being just an idea, an abstract concept, to becoming a real conscious presence, gradually overshadowing or guiding our limited human perspective.
So we start to embody it more.
And we are encouraged to see ourselves as genuine carriers, bearers of this Christed spirit, going beyond our perceived earthly limitations.
Okay.
The texts acknowledge those who are pioneers, teachers, sharing this work of light and guiding others.
The pace setters again.
Right. And these planetary energies we're experiencing are seen as stimulating a process of renewal, regenerative activity, moving us towards a more evolved state of consciousness.
Now, there's an interesting point you mentioned earlier about connections to past lives.
Ah, yes. and how a breakdown of trust, perhaps in those lives, can lead to a kind of separation between our physical and spiritual selves, even now.
So learning to accept peace is key to healing that.
It seems to be a really important lesson, yes. Forgiveness, letting go, setting intentions or manifestation, acceptance, and love. These are presented as crucial steps towards freeing our soul.
Steps to wholeness.
Transforming old patterns, those ill will rages perhaps, into joy and peace. Even the big changes happening on Earth are reframed
As
as the beginning of a new Earth and a more evolved version of ourselves emerging from the old. We are all, in essence, messengers of this unfolding radiance, meant to uplift and bring healing.
That's a powerful role.
And this journey culminates, in a way, in returning to our source, with that higher energy grounding into our physical bodies. That earthing is seen as a really important manifestation.
Bringing heaven to earth, so to speak.
Kind of. The texts even encourage us to explore the universe through our thoughts, using them as a tool of consciousness. It's a vast, limitless potential being described.
Truly expansive.
And within that exploration, there's a call to be gentle with ourselves, to forgive the soul's past unknowingness, its learning process, and to awaken its deeper understanding.
Self-compassion is key.
Definitely. The need to release imbalances created by our desires, especially lower desires, is also highlighted, with the understanding that our egos, our lower selves, might be more sensitive, even reactive, during this process of waking up.
Growing pains, perhaps.
Could be. This leads us to another of these colored rays, the mint green ray.
Mint green, what's its focus?
Renewal and rejuvenation. It's described as raising the energy, the frequency of both our physical bodies and our consciousness.
So it helps with letting go.
Yes, helping us release the fears that hold us back from change, fears that can affect our physical well-being. It helps clear away any lingering sensitivities or psychic debris, energetic clutter.
Clearing the decks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The focus here is on finding balance on all levels of our being, asking for our destiny, our highest potential to come into its fullness.
Okay. And then the concept of Kundalini comes up. How is that presented?
It's introduced not as something scary, which it sometimes is portrayed as, but as a potentially joyful process of surrendering to our spirit's guidance.
A natural unfolding.
Right. The Kundalini energy, or fire, is described as freeing us from false intentions, harmful behaviors, elevating us to a new level of peace and clarity.
So it's a positive force.
It ignites our inner strength, stirs up any stagnation, emotional, mental, that needs to be expressed or released. Stepping into this Kundalini phase is likened to graduating, reaching a new plateau of well-being and insight.
Interesting. And Scarlet Ray.
Ah, the Scarlet Ray. Presented as the light energy of passion. Passion in a broad sense, moving through our physical, astral, or emotional, and soul bodies.
Okay.
Focusing our deepest soul desires with this ray is seen as a way to unleash our completed selves, leading to a kind of inner union, a marriage of our higher being.
An integration.
Yes, it's about learning better ways to communicate, gaining a more objective understanding of our egos, and ultimately freeing ourselves from fears. Fears of oppression, illusion, hostility, rage.
Releasing deep-seated fears.
The fundamental practice recommended is to dwell on the thought, the feeling of being love and being one with all life, aligning ourselves with that harmonious pattern of the Christ consciousness.
Back to that core connection.
Then the golden ray comes in to raise all of our frequencies, tuning us into higher beings and higher states.
Like turning up the dial.
Exactly. Planetary consciousness, in this view, is the embodiment of spirit, mind, knowledge, wisdom, and truth all together. And the power of many minds coming together, becoming one vibration, that's seen as having the power to break down collective mental barriers.
Unity consciousness again.
Right. There's a clear distinction made between this unified state and a discordant consciousness, which represents resistance to truth and peace. Opposition.
And the planetary center, they mentioned that again?
Yes, it's described as the dimension of the first creation.
Yeah.
The source, the creation of other creators even. Very foundational.
Wow. Deep stuff.
The ultimate aim, it really seems, is to uplift the Earth through the transformation, the transmutation and cleansing of our collective planetary mind.
And how is that achieved?
By transmuting destructive forces through the power of our thought, holding the vision of perfection. The service of light is presented as the greatest purpose, really.
Okay. And this ties back to Kundalini.
Yes, activating the Kundalini fire within the soul to focus specifically on healing. Merging our soul's desires with this network of energy is described as leading to a greater cosmic upliftment.
Cosmic upliftment.
But it's emphasized that fully expressing and understanding our desires, being complete with them, is a key part of this Kundalini awakening. No suppression.
Interesting.
The texts then guide us to focus on the significant fears present in the collective consciousness, maybe while working with the blue ray.
The wisdom ray.
Right. Rising above these fears through our inner wisdom, recognizing that our true spirit is an equalized divine spark, not defined by fear.
Okay. And there are specific practices mentioned, you said, like pyramids.
Yeah.
Yes, creating energy structures, visualizing pyramids of light for transformation and raising our energy. Blending gold and white light essences within these pyramids, for example.
Specific techniques.
And the mint green ray is revisited for transforming total systems, starting within ourselves and then extending out to our group experiences, our interactions.
Starting within, moving outward.
The series also points out the subtle changes you might notice in your body emotionally, perceptually, mentally as a result of these meditations and readings. It acknowledges the process.
So it's not always dramatic shifts.
Often subtle. Different colored rays are associated with specific effects. Gold bringing new ways of thinking. Blue releasing fear stored in the body or brain, bringing hidden aspects up.
Okay.
Ruby red, called the left hand of the physician, offering warm healing energy for broken systems, physical or energetic.
Healing energy.
Pink as divine love and perfection, bringing balance and harmony. Though it might initially activate opposite feelings as things rebalance, that's important to note.
A balancing act.
It is. The ultimate goal seems to be to raise and unify all aspects of ourselves, all the egos, into one single vibration, eventually moving through our lower bodies into the radiant white light. Pure consciousness.
The ultimate integration.
And other rays have roles too. Emerald green challenges our growth, objectivity, communication, clearing lower frequencies, blocking creativity. Scarlet ray helps dissipate negative thought patterns, deterring right thought and action, sublimating creative urges into higher forms.
Each ray has its function.
Seems so. The influence of the astral or etheric realms is also discussed, noting their role in shaping our karmic experiences, but also that guidance from higher light can help reform those patterns.
We're not just stuck with old karma.
Apparently not. These energetic realms hold memories, including maybe a feeling of being separated from our source. Our earthly experience is partly about becoming aware of that separation in order to heal it.
Oh, okay.
There's even a fascinating specific reference to the angel of the Church of Ephesus governing the gonads, and the overself indicating a need for cleansing in that area. Very specific.
Wow. Yes. And the practice of introspection, looking inward, is connected to potentially accessing the Akashic records, pulling out relevant vibrations to help us focus our intentions more effectively now.
Accessing deeper information.
And while our individual designs, our unique paths, are important for our own fulfillment, they exist within the larger context of a unified experience. Both matter,
Individual and collective.
a powerful, energetic structure, a pyramid of the great hierarchy, is described as radiating violet purple, silver, and gold, energies that promote inner heart freedom.
Heart freedom. Nice.
And the amethyst ray, the light of the warrior used in a pyramid structure, is for transmutative clearing of low energy and old conflicts. It can bring hidden pain to the surface so it can finally be resolved.
Necessary if uncomfortable.
Exactly. Ultimately, the aim is to elevate ourselves through these radiant rays into a closer connection, an inner circle within the planetary system, joining with other lightworkers for the healing of the Earth.
A shared mission. Our mind is presented consistently as the vehicle, the tool we use to create our reality, our experience.
Mind creates reality.
And we are encouraged to unite, connect with all minds that are focused on good, love, spirit, truth, divine consciousness, amplifying the positive.
Strength and unity.
Letting go of fears and anxieties is a key part of this process. Using the blue light and affirming our perfect goal, our divine will, directing blue light specifically to uplift the mental body of Earth is seen as transforming collective fear into truth.
Active mental work.
A specific practice using a silver chalice pyramid is mentioned for balancing our consciousness and letting go of illusion and fear.
Another technique.
And there's a very specific practical suggestion to project healing energy and divine love to help alleviate greed and the misuse of power, say in places like Washington, D.C. or other centers of power.
Applying these principles directly to world issues.
Yes. It's about releasing past regrets, repairing any broken structures within our own consciousness. The texts describe waves of light and consciousness actively assisting us in living without being held back by old fears.
We're being helped by these energies.
And that actual changes are occurring within our bodies at a molecular and atomic level through this directed energy work.
Physical shifts, too.
A specific symbol, the Star of David, is presented as representing the pattern of our soul's light. A powerful connection, a link to spiritual planes, offering strength and protection. A key.
Key symbol.
And the white ray, the ray of purification, used in a five-sided pyramid structure, helps us attune to our divine self and clear our being, body, mind, and spirit.
Purification.
Focusing our thoughts on the laws of manifestation, and particularly the power of giving to receive abundance, is also emphasized.
The principle of flow.
Along with understanding that karmic conditions, challenges, often arise precisely to help us find balance and polarity, they serve a purpose.
Seeing challenges differently.
Angels are described, quite simply, as pure light messengers. Their role is to help free us from resistance, particularly the resistance born of pain. They exist as overseers of different planes or dimensions.
Okay. Messengers of light.
And we, as evolving spiritual beings, have the potential to eventually join this angelic realm as caretakers, helpers.
The hustle teacher path.
Specific archangels like Michael for protection and Gabriel for clearing resistance are mentioned.
Familiar names.
But the astral plane is also described as a place holding spirits still bound by earthly desires and potentially containing deceivers or misleading influences.
So discernment is crucial there, too.
Oh, absolutely, which underscores the importance of truly knowing oneself as love above all else. That's the anchor.
Know yourself as love.
The turmoil we see on Earth is attributed largely to our collective mass mind consciousness, full of fear and negativity, emphasizing again the need for light, for upliftment.
Changing the collective mind.
The emergence of mind, the thinking faculty, enveloping spirit, is presented as part of the creation process. Spirit is the inner essence. Mind is the thought-created consciousness we use to navigate reality.
Spirit and mind.
Activating light within ourselves is crucial for clearing the doubt, fear, and anger caused by negative thought forms, both our own and collective ones.
Clearing the inner landscape.
The warrior ray, likely amethyst again, is seen as confronting anything that severs our connection from God, truth, Christ consciousness, our source.
Cutting through illusion.
Mind itself is described as the I am vibration, our core identity, activated by the amethyst light to break through barriers and limitations.
Mind as I am.
The mint green ray, used again in a five-sided pyramid, is for bringing in new life and awareness, activating our inner centers and transmuting lower frequencies. Repetitive use for reinforcement, perhaps.
Reinforcing renewal.
The texts even touch on the idea of our consciousness being able to travel, to be transported between different levels of reality, similar in concept to how we move physically.
Consciousness travel.
A specific energetic input, the scarlet energy, is described as helping to bring peace, paradoxically manifested through warring factors coming to resolution.
Peace through conflict resolution.
But it can be difficult, the texts note, for personalities still held tightly in negativity to fully grasp or integrate this wider cosmic sense or perspective.
Resistance to the bigger picture.
The ultimate goal is presented as the fusion, the complete integration of body and soul into full consciousness, with our soul's light radiating freely beyond the physical body.
Full embodiment and radiance.
And healing, particularly physical healing, is deeply linked to releasing that fundamental fear of separation from the first cause, from source.
The root fear.
Visualizing our merged soul, higher self, and angelic mind is recommended as a practice for physical healing.
A visualization for healing.
Disease or imbalance often manifests as eruptions, things needing to surface and be released for inner calm to be restored.
Release is necessary.
Engaging in angelic healing practices is encouraged, aimed at restoring body and spirit to their origin as one with all that is. Training ourselves to utilize these tools of light for healing consciousness.
Learning the tools.
The astroletheric field around us holds on to past conditions, memories, traumas, and needs to be synchronized with our soul and physical body for complete healing and alignment.
Aligning all levels.
Receiving gold and orange light from the angelic plane, maybe through intention or meditation, can actually alter how we perceive the world. Shift our viewpoint.
Changing perception through light.
Angels on assignment are described as connecting with those going through transitional phases in life, offering healing and sharing truth, support during change.
Help during transitions.
Feeling disconnected at times is acknowledged, perhaps when our energy is responding to needs elsewhere, even unconsciously.
Explain some feelings.
Negative, comparative emotions like envy, judgment are clearly stated as hindering our evolvement. The reminder is that each individual is a unique masterpiece. No comparison needed.
Honoring uniqueness.
Unifying our inner and outer vibrations, bringing harmony, involves consciously bringing the cause of any dissonance before our higher self for resolution.
Taking it to the higher self.
A specific blend, the Crimson Ray, Amethyst, and Scarlet, is used for severing any remaining deviations from our true inner direction, operating at the angelic level. Final clearing.
Fine-tuning the connection.
Releasing false ideas and the residue of negative encounters is helped through this angelic connection. Letting go of old baggage.
Releasing the past.
Our personality connects with turquoise energy for magnifying healing light. Magenta light raises our frequency level within the angelic spheres, more specific energies.
Turquoise and magenta.
Symbols or codes infused with light are mentioned as bringing new consciousness, preparing us for connection with the monadic self, an even higher level of being.
Preparing for the monad.
Our physical body releases resistance to perfected love and light. Focusing light directly on areas of physical pain or discomfort is encouraged.
Light for physical pain.
Feelings like disillusionment, frustration, self-negation can be healed by the Scarlet Ray. And consciously assigning oneself to the path of light for service is presented as a powerful, fulfilling choice.
Dedication to service.
The Yellow Ray, a blend of white and gold, is centered on the ascension process and living as an ascended one now, integrating angelic awareness into the physical world without judgment.
Living ascension now.
The Turquoise Ray, a blend of blue and emerald green, is associated with healing and mental awareness, blending wisdom and creative consciousness.
Healing and mental clarity blend.
There's an open invitation for those struggling with duality, with inner conflict, to come into the inner temple for truth, wisdom, and peace.
An invitation to inner peace.
Contact with multidimensional beings and councils of light is described as part of assisting the planetary vibration. We're part of a bigger team.
Galactic connections.
Seems implied. Physical difficulties are sometimes framed as potentially necessary, perhaps creating needed aloneness for aligning with our angelic self, finding purpose in challenges.
Reframing difficulty.
The physical world itself is described as preparing for a dimensional change, a shift.
Birth changes.
Significant growth has occurred, especially since around 2012, with Christ's coming understood not as an external event, but as the potential for inner peace within each heart.
Christ consciousness within.
Our ongoing search is for integration within the monadic system, that higher level of unity. And completing an important phase in our spiritual path signifies becoming more angelically integrated.
Reaching new levels of integration. Wow. That was an incredibly comprehensive journey through a vast landscape of ideas. Really deep.
It covers a lot of ground, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So, just to try and summarize, we've delved into these core concepts. The power of light and consciousness, the continuous path of spiritual evolution, this journey we're on.
Right.
The crucial role of our inner work, meditation, intention.
So important.
And our profound connection to higher dimensions, higher beings, this whole network of light.
Absolutely. The A Course in Light series offers a really expansive framework, doesn't it, for understanding both our inner and outer worlds. It provides a wealth of ideas and practices for your own personal exploration and growth.
And for you, our listener who shared these texts, we truly hope this deep dive has illuminated some of the key principles and maybe sparked some new insights for you personally.
Yeah, perhaps take a moment, to consider which of these ideas or meditations resonated most deeply with you.
This kind of raises a really important question, I think, for you to ponder.
Which is?
How might understanding these concepts, even just starting to grasp them, begin to shift how you see your everyday experiences?
Yeah.
And maybe your own potential for cultivating inner peace and contributing, serving the world around you.
That's the real takeaway, isn't it? How does this land in your life? Definitely some profound food for thought.
We really encourage you to revisit these source materials, perhaps with a new perspective after this chat, and continue your own deep dive.
Whispers creeping through the haze, shadows dance in twisted ways, echoes hum from worlds unseen. This is where the strange convene. Step into cracks and haunted tones. Reality's edge becomes your home. Questions rise like fragile smoke. The uncharted realm silently spoke. Step into the unknown mind. Secrets hidden